In the midst of the talking about Charlie Masonda potentially coming to Celtic for around £5 million, it got me thinking, Celtic don't usually spend highly. We're not a club renowned for spending lots of money. In fact, most of the best players we've ever signed have came in quite a low transfer fee. But it got me thinking, who are the best players we've had that have been costing us, the likes of £4, £5, £6 million? Who is the best and who is the worst? So I've put together a team of our most expensive signings of all time. Basically, it's quite self-explanatory. You'll get it as we go along. I'm doing it position by position, so there might be a couple of players left out that are more expensive than others, but I had to do it in the fact that we could get every position on the park. But aye, here we go. Most expensive Celtic 11 of all time. The goalkeeper, Fraser Forster, one of Celtic's best goalkeepers in recent times. He joined us on a loan deal initially from Newcastle in 2010 and was quite impressive. In fact, we loaned him out for a couple of seasons in a row. We finally decided to spend the money on him. We got him for £2 million in June 2012, which is the biggest amount of money we ever paid for a goalkeeper, and it was, well, definitely worth it. The performances he put in week in, week out were absolutely spectacular. Very well renowned for his performance against Barcelona, to the fact where the Barcelona newspapers were calling him a great wall, and I think there was even links with him going to Barcelona after that match. People were saying he was that good, and he was just a fantastic keeper. Eventually, obviously, left Celtic, and £10 million was brought in for him, going to Southampton, and you can see why, because he's proven it down in England. He could do the exact same what he'd done up here. He was a great shot stopper, he broke records up here and everything. Fantastic keeper, and it was money well spent. I mean, £2 million, not a lot of money, but for a bargain like that, oh, worth it. On to the most expensive defenders, starting off with Raphael Shite. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but let's just say his time at Celtic was indeed shite. I mean, he was injured after 3 games after paying a hefty sum of £5.6 million in 1999. We signed him from Gramiro, and things were promising. I mean, if you spend £5.6 million on a player, that is massive, especially for Celtic, and you're expecting a lot. But after about 3 appearances, he was injured for 9 months. 9 months, he missed the whole season, he did not get a chance, and then by the time he was back, we loaned him out, and then, no, just didn't work for him. And he never really got playing for Celtic. What could have been, he could have turned out to be a great player. If that 9-month injury never occurred, who knows? We might have found a gem. He could have been at Celtic for a few years, we could have made profit on him, but no, nothing happened, and his second name sums up his time at Celtic perfectly. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce his second name, to be honest. The second defender is former Hibs Scottish Cup winning manager Alan Stubbs, who signed for Celtic in the summer of 1996 for a fee of £3.5 million from Bolton, which at the time made him Celtic's record transfer signing, spending a lot of money back then for Alan Stubbs, which could have been a risk, but he seemed to be pretty good and ended up spending quite a bit of time at Celtic. He stayed from August 1996 till 2001, where he just spent a bit of time not really playing for Martin O'Neill's side, but he made about 140 odd appearances for Celtic as a player, so he was quite a key part to the team. Eventually he did leave, his contract was up in the summer of 2001, and he didn't decide to stay on, and we lost him on a free to Everton. But you know what? He done a good job. He managed to keep a place in the team for the majority of those seasons. So aye, one of Celtic's better record transfer signings. Jus Valgren, however you want to say it, signed for Celtic in the July of 2000. One of Martin O'Neill's very first signings as Celtic manager. He came in off the back of the Euro 2000 tournament, where he impressed a lot of teams, including teams down in England. Leeds and Sunderland were linked after going for him, but eventually we ended up picking him up for a fee of £3.8 million. And it was worth it. He stayed at Celtic for about 5 years, and he was a solid player in the team, and ended up playing that final in Seville. He was a great defender. He stayed at Celtic quite a long time, and it was definitely worth the £3.5 million. His time in Celtic, he made about 170 appearances, scoring 10 goals from centre back. He won 3 league titles, and as I said, he was a runner-up in the UEFA Cup final. So he had a solid time at Celtic, and he was one of Martin O'Neill's preferred defenders. You can't really complain. A lot of people liked him. Don't know if you liked him personally, but aye, one of our top ever expensive signings. The final defender in this side is Celtic's current centre back, Jozo Suminovic, who signed in the summer transfer window of 2015, signed by Ronny Deila for what was an undisclosed fee, but according to the rumours and such, it was for around £4 to £5 million, so he's definitely up there as one of Celtic's most expensive defensive signings of all time. Not really lucky enough in his first season with Celtic. He suffered a long-term injury which meant he struggled to get into the team. He was unavailable for most of the season, and then eventually when he recovered from the injury, he was then linked to go to Torino, and he was actually in Torino on deadline day of last season, ready to move when he failed his medical for Torino. And all I can say is it's one of the best medicals that one of our players could ever have failed, as he stayed in the 2016-17 squad and proved to be an integral and important part to the invincible treble-winning side. If it wasn't for him, I think we'd have struggled a lot more defensively, and he really proved he is our best defender at the current minute. And I had him with links to Newcastle and such for fees as high as £9 million, so he's a really important player, and he's still in the Celtic team, and he will be an important player for the next season or two to come, and hopefully he will be staying at Celtic. On to the midfield, and first is the current Celtic captain, Scott Brown, who signed for Celtic about 2007 for a fee of £4.4 million. He was heavily linked with going to Rangers, to the fact that Rangers fans were actually singing at Easter Road that they were going to sign him, but no, he chose to join us. He chose to join Celtic, and 10 years later he is the captain of a dominant Celtic side. I don't think he could have even envisioned how successful his Celtic career could have went. He is now down as a club icon, the fans love him, and he's a great captain, great passionate leader, and you couldn't ask for a better player. Brilliant Champions League performer, brilliant league performer, and he's won countless league medals now as captain for Celtic, and he's just got a great Celtic career. Back in 2007, I don't think we could have imagined him being the captain, but because he was a bit rash, he was a bit aggressive, a bit arrogant, but now he really does know what it takes to be a great leader, and he is really the heart and soul of the Celtic team at the minute. Neil Lennon, a name synonymous with Celtic fans, a legend at the club if you like, brought in December 2000 for a fee of £5.75 million, which makes him one of the most expensive players in the squad, very close to tying the amount for most expensive Celtic player of all time, but brought in by Martin O'Neill after he managed him at Leicester a few seasons before. And what is there to say about Neil Lennon? He was a captain, he was a leader, a fantastic player, and he had a really good career at Celtic, a strong career, making about 210 appearances or so. It was fantastic. 5 Scottish Premiership medals, 4 Scottish Cup medals, and 2 League Cups. That's just his career as a player for Celtic. Also part of that runner-up side in the UEFA Cup final in Seville in 2003. A player loved by fans, later going on to be a manager. Really one of the biggest names that you can associate with Celtic in recent times, and the money that we paid for him was more than worth it. The final midfielder is one disliked by many a fan. It is the Israeli Eyal Berkovic, who was brought in 1999 for £5.75 million from West Ham United. And really a season to forget for Celtic. It was a season under the management of John Barnes and the director of football, Kenny Dalglish. It was just not a season to remember. And he didn't do too well for Celtic. As I said, disliked by many, only lasted one season. He never really done much in his time. He made about 30 appearances, don't even know how many goals he scored. But let's put it this way, it wasn't the best £5.75 million we ever spent. And we ended up getting rid of him. I think we just released him, to be honest. He went on loan to Blackburn, and that was it. Last we heard of him. Winning 1 League Cup, I suppose. I guess that's the only highlight we can take. On to the forwards, and the first forward is a striker that was signed to forget. £3.8 million signed in the season of Tony Mowbray, Marc-Antoine Fortuny. Another season to forget, I know. Not a good season for Celtic under the management of Tony Mowbray, and it was Tony Mowbray's first signing. And paying £3.8 million, you expect a lot more from a striker. He made about 30 odd appearances for Celtic, scoring 10 league goals in total. It was just not that impressive, and it was a big waste of money. You know, he spent £3.8 million on a player nowadays for Celtic. You expect to get a lot out of them, especially for a striker, and it just wasn't good. We ended up selling him back to West Brom, where we got him a season later, but just not impressive, and one of the biggest flops in recent memory for Celtic. One of the best players in this starting 11 for me, and Celtic's most expensive signings, is another one of Martin O'Neill's signings. Signed in August 2001, it is John Hartson, who we brought in for £6 million from Coventry City. After he failed a medical with Rangers, he then decided to come to us only a year later, and honestly, I'm so happy he failed that medical with Rangers, because now he's down as a club icon. He had a fantastic career at Celtic. It was always kind of in the shadow of Chris Sutton and Henrik Larsson, but he was a fantastic player, winning 3 league titles, 2 Scottish Cups and a League Cup. And who knows, if he was fit the night of the UEFA Cup final against Porto, things could have gone differently. He was obviously out with injury that night, and if he wasn't, Who knows? Maybe he could have been the game changer. Maybe he could have got us an equaliser. Things could have been very different. But enough dwelling on that. He had a fantastic career with Celtic, making about 140 appearances, scoring 88 goals. That's in the league alone. But he was a fantastic player, one of Celtic's best strikers in recent memory. And as I said, he's down as a club icon. Which leads us on to the final player of this most expensive Celtic squad of all time. And the most expensive Celtic player of all time. Our record signing is Chris Sutton, who we brought in 2000 for a fee of £6 million. One of Martin O'Neill's first signings. We brought him in after he didn't have the most of successful seasons with Chelsea. Previously a Premier League winner with Blackburn Rovers, where he was partnered with Alan Shearer. He was brought into Celtic with quite the expectation on his shoulders. I mean, £6 million. Big amount of money for Celtic. It's our most expensive player of all time, for Christ's sake. He was brought in though, and he did deliver. With the likes of John Hartson, with the likes of Henrik Larsson around him, he was a fantastic striker, and the medals he walked away with proves it. 3 league titles, 3 Scottish Cups, a League Cup, a runner-up in the Europa League / UEFA Cup, whatever you want to call it. And he also won a PFA Player of the Year award as well with Celtic. One of Celtic's best players of the past 15 years, and now probably one of the best pundits on TV. You might not agree with me there. But aye, Chris Sutton, most expensive player in Celtic's history. That does it then for this video, guys. If you did enjoy, you know what to do. Hit the like and subscribe button. I hope you did enjoy something a wee bit different from just the normal FIFA videos or so. So I hope you did enjoy. A bit of effort went in, so a like would be appreciated. As for me, Ryan118, I'll see you all next time.